episode of Barely Watched Podcast, sponsored through Line for Line Podcast. I'm your host with the most, Devon Booker. You already know the gracious gentleman who's able to give us some time week in and week out. We have Mr. Lester Wiltfong in the building. Lester, how you feeling?
I'm doing good, Devon. How you doing, man?
Man, I'm hanging in there, bro. I'm actually really excited. I don't want the guests to know that I'm literally sitting here shaking because the Bears football is back, and
We're ready.
just being able to talk about the Bears, man. Because a lot of the times, like we just get on this hype train, we're like, oh, they look good in training camp or whatever the case may be, and then we just take it and run with it. And then
Yeah.
when the season actually gets here, we get disappointed. So I've been dialing back on that a lot of, oh, so and so looks really good at camp. Oh wait, what?
Yeah.
But then when the season gets here, it's not even the same. So I just really been chilling, I just been chilling. But as you said, we get the Bears football back with their first preseason game tomorrow. How have you been feeling, Lester, about just things that you've seen from training camp and players that we've got?
No, I mean it's good. I mean they're in a good place as a franchise. It's like I talked to a lot of fans. Are like they're the same boat, right? I've been hurt so bad in the past.
Mhm.
I was hyped for the Bears last year, and look what happened to him. Well, look, last year there was no Ben Johnson, right?
Yeah.
Like this is like a new era. Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams. It's a new era for the Bears. Nothing that Matt Nagy did or Dowell Logans did or Mark Trestman did years ago it has any bearing on what's the current Bears situation is. So stop letting your emotions be dictated by the Matt Nagy era, right?
Mhm.
That era sucked. The John Fox era sucked. You know what I mean? Matt Eberflus era was trash, right? So this is a new era. Ben Johnson's coming in, and look, it may not be smooth sailing from the start, but this is who Ben Johnson is. He's always kind of brought this offense around, and it takes just look at what he did in Detroit, man. I mean, his first year calling plays full time there.
Mhm.
It was still a top 10 offense. So there's some talent in place here. Ben Johnson's definitely the real deal as far as play caller, schemer, game planner. He knows how to kind of get the best out of his team. So it's exciting. So be excited, man. It's okay.
Of course, of course. Now, since we do know that the Bears got a ton of new additions, let's just take it back and let's back up talking about the draft. Obviously, we turned heads with our first pick being Colston Loveland,
Yeah.
tight end. What was a couple of your thoughts when that name came across the board in the position when there were several good marquee offensive linemen out there available as well?
Yeah, I wasn't expecting tight end. Like it's like a week before the draft, we started hearing this buzz about tight end to the Bears, but it was Tyler Warren, right, the Penn
Mhm.
State guy. There wasn't a lot of buzz with Loveland, and then like as we're getting closer to the draft, you start hearing both names mentioned. Both guys could be top 10 picks. They're just those kind of athletes, and and then when you kind of step back and look at what the Bears want out of that tight end position, they already have Cole Kmet, right? Who's your Y? He's your inline guy. So
Mhm.
it makes sense. So, why draft a guy like Tyler Warren, who is kind of similar role to what Cole Kmet does? They want more of the athlete, more of the dynamic guy with Colson Loveland. So it made sense for that pick. He's really good. I mean,
Mhm.
his film last year in Michigan because he had the shoulder injury. His film 2 years ago was better,
Mhm.
but he's just a dynamic athlete. I know his blocking gets knocked, but look, he's a Michigan Wolverine tight end. He was recruited by Jim Harbaugh. That guy
Mhm.
knows how to block. He may not be the best blocker, but he's willing. He'll stick his nose in there. He's got decent technique. So I think it's something where his blocking will get better as he progresses throughout his NFL career. But right now, if the most he's given you is a dynamic move tight end who can kind of create mismatches, that's a bonus for this offense.
I think, yes, sir. I actually think it'll look good as well too. At the time, I'll be honest, it did not make sense because at the time,
Yeah,
obviously, like I said, sometimes we get so caught up in the media hype train. We're
yeah,
sold on Tyler Warren. We're, oh, that's who the Bears should get if anyone. Wait, Colston Loveland. Why would they
yeah.
go this route if it was? So no, yeah, I totally like that. And like I said, we got a bunch of help too because obviously you got to remember we got Ozzie Trapillo in the draft as well too. We got Luther Burden in the draft as well to help out on the offensive side of the ball, and we got another offensive lineman as well too. Do you see anyone besides Colson Loveland being a key contributor going forward, starting day one?
Yeah, Burden, I think, is going to be in the mix. I mean, the Bears have a pretty good receiving core.
Hmm.
Um, I'm going to butcher his name. Olamide Zakamias. Is
Yep,
that right? Okay,
yep.
nailed it. So he's a pretty good player, right? I mean, he's never really been a featured guy throughout his career, but he had a nice year last year with Washington. The Bears brought him over to be their number 3, and then all of a sudden, here's Luther Burden sitting there in a draft. I don't think the Bears expected it, but
Mhm,
when a guy like that falls in your lap, you got to take him. He was high on their board, obviously. That's a
mhm,
Ben Johnson guy. I mean, he kind of fits what he wants to do. He can play the slot, good after the catch. He played some running back reps at Missouri, so he's another guy. Move him all on that offense. I think Burden's going to have a big part of this offense. It may not be as it's not going to be DJ Moore or Roma Dunze big, but
mhm,
again, we're looking at mismatches. Ben Johnson now has the components to run double tight end set, right, with
mhm.
Komet and Loveland, and now he also has to do 3 or 4 receiver sets with this talented receiving core. So depending on the mismatch, depending on the defense, Ben Johnson can kind of get what he wants when he wants it because he has the talent.
Yeah, with the amount of receivers that we do have, because we all know that DJ Moore is a dog. We know Rome Odunze stepped up big in his rookie year, and they expect him to excel going forward. Who's gonna be that premier guy going forward with all these hands and all these mouths?
I mean, I kind of think Roma Dunza will be the number 1. By the end of the season, I think he'll be the guy. I just think he's look, we talk about moving you guys around. DJ Moore's the guy that they'll move around the offense. He's in
Mhm,
probably play. He'll play the Z for you, so they kind of motion him around there. He'll get some jet sweep stuff. We already saw him in camp. Taking handoffs out of the backfield as a running back.
mhm,
So the jet sweeps end around. He'll move out of the slot, which kind of what Amon-Ra St. Brown did a lot in Detroit. He kind of worked to the slot quite a bit.
mhm.
So DJ Moore can do that, but I just think Roma Dunze has such high upside. I think last year fans look and said, "Oh, it was a disappointing season. He only has 700 yards." Well, he was the number 3 receiver
Yeah.
on the offense. So if you look at those yards and those catches, as far as the number 3 receivers go, that was pretty good. Those are pretty good numbers. I'm not sure where he kind of fit across the entire NFL, but I'm pretty
Mhm.
sure as far as all league wide NFL number 3 receivers, he was like top 5 as far as his
Yeah,
numbers. So the
definitely.
production was there, but he was sharing targets with Keenan Allen and DJ Moore. This year he steps up the depth chart. He'll be your starting X. I just think that there's a lot of talent there, and I think by the end of the season, he may be your number 1 receiver. But that's not saying DJ Moore's not, because he has that skill set as well. So it's a good problem to have. We thought we had the problem last year with the
Mhm.
Bears, but the Shane Waldron offense just didn't kind of put it all together. Caleb was a rookie. There was some issues with the guys being on the same page. That's out the window, man. Now these guys are pros. They're going into year 2. So I think we're going to see the best out of Caleb and out of Rome.
Of course, of course. Taking it back to Caleb now, since you mentioned his name, now you're about to get me going down the rabbit hole because this is like this guy just steals all the attention because as Bears fans, we're not used to our quarterback having commercials, our quarterback getting the media hype and getting the media attention and just being talked about in general. A quarterback for the Chicago Bears getting attention like this. Obviously, this kid has been
Yeah.
through a lot, especially with his rookie year. But like we mentioned, they went out and got him help, got a new offensive line. How do you see that offensive line taking pressure off Caleb and allowing Caleb to actually play his game at a comfortable pace?
Yeah, I think that the line obviously a huge part of it. I mean, obviously you got to have the horses up front, and the Bears have
Mhm.
that now. There's still some question marks at left tackle, but they've been working through that all training camp. You're going to find the best guy there, whether it's Braxton Jones
Ozzy,
or Ozzy
Ozzy,
Trapillo. Yeah, I think Ozzy's got a good shot at it. I mean, right now Braxton Jones. Look, if all things are equal, and I think you go with the rookie, but I think Braxton Jones just from the between the ears part of it, I think he just understands what he's seeing better as far as a pro. He
yeah,
knows the stunts. He knows when to pick up the stunts. He knows, what's happening in front of him. He's seen all these defensive fronts where Ozzy's still learning that part of the game. So I think if it's equal, you go with the rookie. But I just think Braxton may have the edge there. But as far as the O line up front, or I'm going to go back to Ben Johnson. A lot of it is Ben Johnson knowing what he has to do,
uh-huh.
knowing how to marry the run game and the pass game together. He understands pass blocking schemes.
Hmm.
There were so many times last year I didn't even know what the Bears were doing. I'm breaking down the sacks each week, and I'm like, where's the outlet? Where's the hot read? Why are they sliding the line this way when it just makes no sense? They couldn't pick up a basic stunt.
Hmm.
So I was not a big fan of the last O-line coach, Chris Morgan. I
Mhm.
wasn't sure what he was doing there. I'm not sure how he kept his job when they fired Luke Getzey and all the rest of them. He's the one guy they kept, and the O-line was terrible. So, yeah, I think Ben Johnson and his O-line coach now, Dan Rashar, I think they're all going to be able to kind of get the best out of the O-line.
Uh,
And that's my stupid dog barking in the background there. So
that's all
hopefully
good.
he shuts his mouth.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of this offensive line, how well do you think that's going to actually help the running game? Because a lot of people they were down on DeAndre Swift last year,
Yeah,
said his numbers just weren't good. But
yeah.
look at the offensive line that he had. Look at the contact that he was having to get through as soon as he touched the ball. What does that do for the run game?
Yeah.
Which we now know that there's a new face, Cal Monangai, whose name has been rising as well too in that running back room.
Yeah, you look at Swift. I mean, a lot of fans assumed when Ben Johnson was hired, they were going to get rid of DeAndre Swift because when they were in Detroit, he had him for one season, then he moved him. Right? They traded him to the Eagles. They got a draft pick for him. But look at that year he had with Ben Johnson. He had a career high in yards per carry. I think it was like 5.8 yards per carry. He had, I think, a career high in receptions and receiving yards. And before he got hurt, Swift, I think it was an ankle injury he got early in a year. Like his first game, Swift had like 140 yards rushing.
Oh wow.
He was their primary back
Mhm.
until he got hurt. And then Jamal Williams, who the Bears just worked out today as a tryout basis.
What?
Yeah, they worked him out today. He was at Hallis Hall. So Jamal Williams kind of stepped in out of nowhere that first year in Detroit. He kind of took over the lead back role because
Mhm.
Swift got hurt. Swift came back from his injury. At this point, now Jamal Williams is cooking. You're not going to bench him. So
Yeah.
they kind of split carries. Swift was kind of your third down guy. So Ben Johnson knows how to use Swift. I think Swift's going to be fine. We're not going to see Swift, getting the ball up the middle on like 4th and inches. That's just not his game.
About time. About time.
So they're gonna use Swift the best way. You mentioned Kyle Monangai had a nice camp so far. Roshan Johnson, he got hurt earlier this week, which I think maybe one reason why they kind of brought in Jamal Williams, kind of take a look at him.
Mhm.
Kind of not sure how that injury with Roshan is, but I like Monangai, man. I mean, he's a smart football player. He doesn't have the blazing speed, but he has good contact balance. He can break arm tackles. He
Mhm.
runs real low center of gravity. I think it's like 5'8", 5'9". He's a smaller guy, but he's stocky. He's well put together. So
Yeah.
he'll give you that tough yard when you need it.
Yeah, of course. Now, what do you think Caleb Williams will look like number wise? I was just doing some reading this morning and I was saying that the over under bet is that Caleb will only throw for about
Yeah,
60 to 80 more yards this season than he did last season without the proper coach or proper
yeah.
staff, which made absolute zero sense to me. But what do you think that's going to look like numbers wise for him?
Yeah, you give me the over. I'm taking the over on it all day. I think it's. I'm not sure if he'll get to 4,000, the magical
Uh,
4,000, but I think he's
mhm,
going to push for it. I think he's going to be really close to it. I think he should be able to break the franchise record, which is Eric Kramer's 3,800 yards. I
mhm,
think he has a good chance at that. It's just like I said, look at Ben Johnson's offense in Detroit. Every
mhm.
year it was a top 5, top 10 offense. Jared Goff, who look, he's a pro. He's a pro quarterback, right? But 4,500 yards every year with Jared Goff in that Lion offense. So,
Yeah.
I think Caleb, if he is the guy that everyone thinks he is, I think Ben Johnson is the play caller we all think he is. I
Mhm.
think he'll be pushing for that 4,000 yard limit.
No ways, dude.
Finally,
That'll be so slick, bro. Because it's like it just looks like everything is like coming into place for us. But like I said, we always get this every year. Oh, the Bears are
yeah,
looking good. So and so's looking good. I don't want to. I don't want to get on the hype train until it's the middle of the season and
yeah,
the Bears are trending upwards. Because I don't. Every year I do this. I get out of my body. Oh man, the Bears are gonna do this. The Bears, and then I just sit there like, oh, I thought they were gonna do this. I thought they were gonna do that.
yeah.
All right, but now we can transition to the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, we've been down without Kyler Gordon and Jalen Johnson this past week. Jalen Johnson a little bit longer. Do you see that being an issue for the secondary going forward, or will we have saw they brought in XYZ for a workout, whatever?
It's still a pretty talented secondary. I mean, I don't think anyone expected Nashawn Wright to be getting the starting corner reps when Jalen Johnson went out. But
Mhm,
this is a guy that the Bears signed him as a free agent. He played in Dallas with Al Harris, so the Bears defensive back coach knows him well.
Mhm.
And he fits the Dennis Allen scheme good. I mean, he's a tall corner. He likes playing press man, so that kind of fits what he's doing. So he's been the guy running with the ones with Jalen Johnson out, and then Kyler Gordon. Yeah, it hurts that he's going to be gone because he's such a talented football player. But they brought Josh Blackwell back, who was another good nickel back. I
Mhm.
think Josh Blackwell's a guy that could start for maybe half the teams in the league at nickel. But in Chicago, obviously, he's a core special teamer. He's behind Kyler Gordon. But it's a pretty deep secondary. Tyree Stevenson seems to fit this Dennis Allen scheme a little better. He's got to bounce back. He had a rough year last year,
Oh my gosh.
but you still got Terrell Smith.
Mhm.
So I think overall, even if you are going to miss a couple guys, I think the overall secondary is going to be pretty good. Plus, again, I go back to coaching, right? With Ben Johnson doing wonders for the offense. Dennis Allen is just such a better coach than Matt Eberflus.
Mhm.
I could not like Eberflus's scheme. He was fine, but he relied too much on his players having to make plays, which is okay if you got the dogs, but he just didn't have them all over the defense. So
Yeah.
he had to do things he didn't want to do. Dennis Allen will blitz a little more than Flus did. He's not a blitz happy guy. He's not like Flores is with Minnesota, where he's blitzing every play.
Mhm.
But the thing that Dennis Allen will do is he just disguises the front so much. Like he doesn't just put his guys, his D linemen in their spot, right? They're not three tech, one tech, six tech. He kind of moves those guys around. He looks for mismatches. He may bunch them up and try and create blocking problems for the offense. And then he kind of sneak a guy through where it looks like a blitz to the fans because they're sending a nickel,
Mhm.
but they're just sending four, but they're just disguised how they're sending them so the offense doesn't know who to block.
Of course, of course. I do see that we got your boy Jaquan Brisker back, who's actually
Brisker's back.
he's
Yeah.
been looking like the life of camp as well too. He's getting his nose in there, getting interceptions, getting tips, and all that. Do you think that we're gonna actually see him stay healthy this year, or do you think we're just gonna get the usual couple of games we have been getting out of him?
Yeah, Brisker is it was rough, man. Last year he only played like 4 or 5 games because of the concussion.
Hmm.
He missed most of the season, but yeah, he's cleared. He's back. Man, he likes to talk, right? I mean, he likes to talk trash. That's one reason why the fans you love him or hate him, right?
Hmm.
You either like that kind of stuff out of your guy or you don't. But he's a defensive back. That's kind of what they do. They talk trash. They get under the opponent's skin, and that's exactly what Brisker does. I mean, he's been having a really good camp. He kind of has a nice skill set to where again we go back to Dennis Allen. Dennis Allen was going to draft him in the Saints 4 years ago.
Oh wow.
He told him that if he would have the Bears took him and then the Saints were next pick, that was who the Saints were going to go with. They were going to take Brisker. So Dennis Allen has liked Brisker for a while now. He kind of fits what he wants to do.
Hmm.
He gives us some options. He's not like a true strong or a true free. He kind of has some of those skill sets. Kind of goes both ways. So kind of like we saw last year, right, where they kind of moved him a little bit around the defense. We'll kind of see the same thing with Dennis Allen. And then along with Kevin Byard, who is of course a solid veteran, it gives
Hmm.
the Bears a good safety group.
Yes, sir. Now a lot of keeping your offense happy, keeping them on the field, or keep your defense not gassed. Obviously, it takes you have to get after the quarterback.
Yeah,
How efficiently do you think we are able to do that with the smaller additions that we did make to the defensive line? We didn't really make that splash, and obviously, people keep throwing Micah Parsons' name out there, but I personally, I just think that's all for theatrics. But what do you think, Lester, is will be efficient for them to get after quarterback?
yeah. I'm not sure you're going to have one guy be like a 10 sack guy for this
Hmm.
team. But I think you're going to have the sack numbers go up, the pressures go up, just because Dennis Allen's so good at scheming things open.
Hmm.
Look, I think Montez Sweat's a good football player. Um, he just doesn't have that speed off the edge. He's good off the edge. He's just not that type of player. But that's not Dennis Allen's scheme. He doesn't really have those guys, blazing off the edge. He wants them to kind of contain. He wants them to have smart rush angles, right? Because he wants to keep the quarterback in the pocket.
Hmm.
And I think you may see a guy like Javon Dexter have a nice year this year. Obviously, Grady Jarrett, he's had a nice camp so far. He's older, yeah, but if you're not asking him to play 800 snaps like the Falcons did, I think he's going to be able to kind of produce at a high level
Hmm.
because you have Dexter, you have Billings, right? You have some depth there on D tackle, to where you don't need Jarrett to play all the time. So I think his numbers will go up. So I think it may be more of a sack by committee, but I think you're going to see the numbers go up for sure.
Got it. Got it. What would have to happen in a perfect world, Lester, for the Bears to go out and get a Micah Parsons to the team?
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna happen. I think that's how the Cowboys operate. Right? They
Yeah.
like drama. Jerry Jones wants to have all the drama, all
Hmm.
the news talking about his team, and then eventually he'll sign him. That's
Yeah.
just kind of what he does. So I mean, it's possible they move him if they really can't come to an agreement. But there's also Trey Hendrickson out there for the Bengals. He's on the market still, so you know maybe you see the Bears make a move. But honestly, the way their salary cap structured, they just paid Sweat big money. They paid Deo pretty big money. So I don't think they're going to dump a ton money in that edge position. I think they're going to count on those guys stepping up and a guy like Austin Booker going into year two, kind of giving them some juice off the edge.
Okay. Okay. Do you see the talks about DJ Moore trade getting bigger, or do you think, like I said, that was just internet talk, just to spark up controversy? And things are slow in the offseason. Let's get some talks by saying DJ Moore is unhappy and wants to be traded.
Yeah, I think that whole DJ Moore thing kind of happened. Look, he didn't have the best year last year. He'll say that. There was some times where, like, when he walked off the field, right, he got hurt. He just walked off the field. That was a
Hmm.
bad look. Whether he had a real reason or not, it was a bad look for him. There was some press conferences where he's always kind of been a kind of goofy guy, right? He's not really. He comes across kind of aloof a little bit when he
Hmm.
has these press conferences. But look, the Bears made him the highest paid Bear of all time. They committed to him. You know, they want him. They believe in him, and I think he's going to be here. For a few years at least, because he's got that kind of talent. And look, he may not have been Ben Johnson's guy because the new regime. You got to think, okay, well maybe the new regime doesn't want him. Maybe
Hmm.
that's why. Maybe that's why they drafted Luther Burden. But he's too talented, right? Like so, Ben Johnson will make it work. And then once the salary is to the point where you could move him possibly, maybe they entertain it. But I think at that point the Bears are going to be clicking, and they're like, why should we move our guy when the
Hmm.
offense is one of the top five in the league right now?
Yes, sir. As we get ready to close out this phenomenal episode, Lester, just go ahead and tell us what you think the season will look like at the end. You said the Bears kicked out first round, or was that second round? I don't remember which one you said, but I remember you said for sure playoffs.
Yeah, I think the playoffs are going to happen. I mean, this
What?
this team.
No, stop it.
Come
Let's
on,
go.
man.
Let's
Look,
go. Let's go.
this team should be. Look again. Ben Johnson is the guy we think he is. Caleb's the quarterback we all think he is.
Uh-huh.
You know, this was not a 5-win team last year, right? Like they should have won more than 5 games last year. But Eberflus blew what 4 of them himself because he's a moron.
Hmm.
So if you right off the bat, your coaching is better. Your talent is better because now they're going into year two. Caleb's going to a second year. Rome's doing a second year. So you got a guy now that can understand how to marry the run and the pass. He'll run the ball. He'll run some play action for you. So look, they're not going to win the division because the division's really tough.
Hmm.
Packers, Lions, Vikings. It's a tough division. But yeah, this team's going to make the playoffs. They'll be a wild card. I'm guessing maybe 10 wins should sneak them in there.
You just don't think there's any way that they could top the division, huh?
I mean, it's possible. I mean, the Lions, the Lions obviously lost both coordinators, so they have to kind of overcome some stuff there. But
Hmm.
that's a very talented team. And then, of course, the Vikings. Everything's with the Vikings hinged on JJ McCarthy.
Yeah.
Now, but Viking fans tell you he's the next. He's the goat. I mean,
Yeah.
it's over. Like they assume JJ McCarthy is going to be the greatest quarterback of all time. They've been
Yeah.
talking so much trash all offseason, but he missed his whole rookie year, so he may have a slow start. So and then the Packers, of course, Jordan Love. He's fine, but there seems like to always be some drama with Green Bay lately, right? So,
Hmm.
I just think overall the division's too tough for the Bears to kind of win it. But I mean, it wouldn't surprise me.
You've never been wrong before, so I
I,
know
I I've been
that.
wrong once or twice, so it's possible.
Oh my god! All right, you guys
Yeah,
heard it here first. Lester thinks that the Bears are going to the playoffs this year.
playoffs. Let's
I
go.
really hope so, guys, because I ride on everything that Lester says. What Lester says is law. Lester, we greatly appreciate you having some time for Barely Watch, young man. Seriously.
I'm anytime, brother. I got you.
Yes, sir. You have yourself a good one, young man.
You too. Bye.
All right, peace.